You're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show with your host, myself, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I am a multi-million-dollar business developer. I have developed business and real estate around the world, and I want to share with you my mental strategies, my technical strategies, and how I made it in the world of business. So I don't teach theory. I tell you about my life and introduce you to people who can also share with you what they've done to become successful. This is a practical show. This ain't a theory show. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
This is Sister Sajdah Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajdah House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. As we renovate and restore the former home of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have recycled the old copper gutters and downspouts and created a 1-ounce 39mm coin made of 100% pure copper. Each coin is professionally graded and has its own barcode and registration number. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahhouse.com.
I need you.
Greetings, conscious entrepreneurs. You now can take the Mind of an Entrepreneur show wherever you go. I'm now available on Spotify. Just search Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. Greetings, conscious entrepreneurs. Add the Mind of an Entrepreneur show to your Roku TV lineup and catch up on past episodes of all your favorite Mo Today shows.
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people. Yes, sir. You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself. Yes, sir. There will be a great separation. Yes, sir. So I said, it is on now.
The college is meant to prepare you for your future. That the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. Get up and let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.
Assalamu alaikum. That's Arabic for peace be unto you. For those of you who don't know, you're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. And I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. And you all know we bring you emerging market leaders, introduce you to a community of business people who are unique, who are investment worthy, and who are really working to monetize our authenticity. So welcome to the show. We're fresh off the heels of our big Savior's Day celebration. I hope you all are still on that high. And something that came to me this week about that was how, you know, when we're at Savior's Day or we're at something that's really exciting and inspirational to us, that person with the Spirit has a way of removing all doubt and fear from us. And in that moment, when we're in that person's presence, like the ministers, we feel invincible. We feel like there's nothing that we can't do. And then once we leave and we go back to our everyday lives and start opening up bills and looking at people we work with that we don't like, we start to slowly kind of come down off of that high. And I just want to say to us, the reason why we were on that high was because the minister had that way of removing the fear, the demon, the sadness, whatever it was that was blocking us from our true self. And so when we come back home, we have to make sure that the other things that are coming into our life, we don't allow them to remove us from our true self. We want to try to stay as close to that high space as we possibly can. And remember that feeling of invincibility that the minister gave us, and learn, like we talked about on manifestation class, how to call up that feeling of invincibility. So when you feel a little fear, you feel a little nervousness, you feel a little sadness, call it back up and use different tools to help yourself to tune back in to that feeling of certainty and invincibility. And that's what we're going to do a little bit today. I'm going to introduce you to a sister, Sister Melissa Blue Muhammad. She has a company called Allah Mode, and she makes jewelry, but she makes jewelry that matters. And we got some props here. She and I were talking, and I learned how to use crystals and things like that from Mother Tinetta to heal. And so we want to talk about that, because these are tools that we can use to return ourselves or remind ourselves of that feeling of invincibility. So come on in the room, sit down, settle down. I'll have her website up here. I want you all to go out there and order something. You all know, if you know me, you know I'm all about jewelry that matters. I'm all about metals and crystals and stones and artwork that brings me to and helps me to maintain my sense of certainty. So welcome to all of you in the chat. Wa alaikum salam, NOI Arts. I see Sister Amina Hanan. Welcome, sis. Sister Anissa is here. So welcome. Some of y'all are shy. I see y'all in here, but y'all not in the chat. That's okay. Sit back, relax, and I'm going to bring in my sister. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Melissa.
Wa alaikum salam, Sister Sajdah. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing in them Milwaukee nights over there? I know it's chilly.
I'm well. You know what? I'm still warm from Savior's Day, so we haven't quite come down off the high yet over here.
That's right. We're going to give the people some tools, right, so that they can figure out how to get back to the high and maintain the high, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because life happens, but that's our trial.
It is. It is. And it's the beautiful thing is we have so many ways to get back to who we are and get back to the God within us.
That's right. We sure do. So, Sister Melissa, your company is Allah Mode.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean? I heard a little play on words when I was reading, or I saw a little play on words when I was reading your website. But tell us about Allah Mode and that play on words.
So it has a dual meaning. So I'm a student of French, and
Mhm.
so in French, there's a term called à la mode, and it's used to describe a dessert that's served with ice cream. So you can get an apple pie à la mode, but the words à la mode actually translate to up to date or in style. And so we took Allah, the original and the proper name for God, and we put it next to mode, meaning style, and we created Allah mode, which means God style.
I love that.
And my interpretation of that is God style is to say be, and it is for everything that's created in the universe. And through the healing wearable art that we create, it is our goal to inspire others to know that that same power is right within us.
I love that. I was so excited to speak to you, sis, because I'm a student of art. I'm a business person, but I love art. I collect art. I like my furniture to look like art. I like my jewelry I like wearing art. And I thought about you and I said, well, did she study jewelry? How did you get into this?
It's interesting question. So about 14 years ago, I was traveling back and forth to New York, and I bought a copper and amethyst ring. And here's an amethyst stone for those who may not be familiar with it. But I bought a ring from a brother who was vending at a lecture that I was attending. And when I came back to Milwaukee, I lost contact with him, and I also ended up losing the ring. And I love the ring so much. And there wasn't anybody locally that made that style of jewelry. And so I went into myself and I said, you know what? I think I can recreate that ring. And I had some experience with making different types of jewelry. I used to paint wood earrings with different inspirational statements on them. But I went and found me some copper and got an amethyst stone, and I figured out how to make it myself. And from there, people admired the ring. And so I learned how to make other things, and it just grew from there. I have had a couple of opportunities to work under master teachers, like when it comes to the metalsmithing aspect, and have taken a couple of classes at a couple of our universities here just to expand the skill. But a lot of it is just books, self-taught.
And just inspiration. Period.
Inspiration. Yes, ma'am.
That's beautiful. And so what did you do before that?
So at that time, that was all that I was doing. So I had a job. I was working at the airline.
Okay.
Ended up getting laid off and started my jewelry business. But then I ended up working full time for almost 10 years at a nonprofit organization.
Okay.
And almost 5 years ago, my firstborn child, he transitioned. He returned to Allah suddenly. And I said, I wasn't going to waste any more time. And so I left my job and I used the jewelry with more intention, studying the crystals, studying what they really can do with and for us if we work with them properly. And I used it to facilitate my own healing. So prior to 5 years ago, it was a lot of jewelry simply for the aesthetic, not really knowing and fully understanding what the depths of the crystals were. But after, again, my son transitioned, it really inspired me to go deeper into what it is that I was doing, and it unlocked so much.
So he gave you this beautiful gift.
Yes, ma'am. And it makes me think of that scripture in the Quran that says, speak not of those who are slain in the way of Allah as dead. Nay, they are alive, but we perceive not. And I feel so blessed that I'm able to perceive my son as alive when I get to wake up every morning and do something that I otherwise may not have done if he were physically here.
That's beautiful, sis. So you say you work with coppers and stone. Tell us about these pieces you have on. They're absolutely beautiful. When you came on camera, I was like, you got in my life. That looks like me. That looks like me.
Yes, ma'am. So these are some copper earrings. These are fun, and this is a style that I see, quite a few sisters that do the wire work or brothers that do the wire work as well
Mhm.
make. This swirl to me, it really just it represents like the vortex of creation to me. That spinning, that cycling that we experience during life.
Mhm.
And then just a fun, like a little staircase up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Very,
here
very spiritual in terms of pointing kind of like an antenna,
yes.
right? To this spiritual center that's right here in the ear.
Yes,
There's a
ma'am.
spiritual energetic center that's right here. For me, that energy center is really active. So I get a lot of buzzing and moving and energy right in that center. And so that's why I like those earrings, because it's like it's bringing it up right to that space.
Yes, ma'am, and you know what's interesting too, I don't know if you know, there are crystals in our inner ear
Hmm.
that are responsible for keeping us balanced,
Hmm.
and, when just one of those crystals is out of socket or out of that little membrane, it causes us to experience vertigo, and it makes us feel off balance, and that speaks to the power of crystals in itself because you need a crystal in place in your inner ear in order to keep you balanced.
Yes.
So,
That's
yes,
beautiful.
ma'am.
And crystals come in so many different forms. When I was working on the renovation for the messenger's home, I learned about all the limestone that is there. And limestone is actually a form of a crystal as well. So it's great for conducting energy in and out of our homes or edifices that we might be in.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you're right on point with that because copper, it is a conductor of energy. As far as I know, there aren't any homes or any buildings, yes, ma'am, that are erected without copper grounding wire
Mhm.
underneath the home. It's in our electricity, and our bodies are made up of electricity. We're all energy. And so when we wear the copper, when we keep it close, it helps to conduct the energy within our body as well.
Absolutely. Goldman Sachs came out about a year ago and said that copper is the new oil. And that was born out of the fact that most of your primary car manufacturers are now moving to electric cars, and they need cobalt and copper to conduct the energy and create the batteries that the vehicles will run on. And even with some of the solar cars that exist now in South Korea, there are crystals in them that attract the solar energy and actually maintain it so that they have mopeds that are solar with the crystals in them as well.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that about the copper. It's the
Mhm.
new oil now.
Copper is the new oil. Just Google that phrase, copper is the new oil, and you'll see people talking about it. And so when I think about tuning in and connecting and how Allah blessed me with this concept to create the coins and the jewelry from the copper of the messenger's home, I feel like that was a spiritual message about just grounding and what we should be thinking about. I even went out and in my portfolio, I started buying copper stocks and EFT because I just was like, there's something about this. And when I saw your copper jewelry, I said, here we go again. Here we go again, especially with the crystals. And anybody who knows Mother Tanetta, whether you know her personally or not,
Mhm.
I was I'm such a very, very fortunate person to have met her and spent time with her. And I remember one day we were riding in the car and she had some crystal. And I just said, well, what is that? Because I thought maybe it was rocks. I wasn't familiar with it. And I said, and so she started talking and teaching me about crystals and the use of crystals and the crystals that are in our brains and in our ear and how the crystal is used to as a conduit to tune us into the messages that will be downloaded to us from Allah himself throughout the universe, how we will even be able to communicate with one another utilizing crystals. I know I feel better when I have my crystals around.
Yes, ma'am.
I have some I sleep with that are around me. I brought some for show and tell here a little bit later. Tell us about your necklace. Hold it up because I want everybody to see it. Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
this is pyrite, and then we have citrine and smoky quartz on there. So
Is that like a polished pyrite?
it isn't polished. It's cubic pyrite. So
I have a raw one pyrite here.
so yes, ma'am. You get pyrite is interesting because it is cubic in structure, and so you see the bottom of mine kind of looks like yours, and sometimes
Yeah.
you can find them where they have these perfect cubic cliffs just coming off of them, and it's so beautiful and flashy to me. But pyrite is both Greek and Latin for the word pyr, meaning fire.
Mm-hmm.
And this stone used to be strike together with another piece of pyrite or on a hard surface to create a spark, to create fire, right?
Mm.
And it just makes me think about the fire that's within us, and how you think about when you're cooking. It takes work. You have to heat up a stove, you got to watch the stove, you got to manage what you have on the stove. But when you cook food properly, when you heat things up properly, it nourishes the body in a very, and if you're, of course, if you're eating the right foods, it's nourishing the body in a very wonderful way. And so this stone is really good for attracting abundance and wealth, and helping your wealth work for you, helping your money work for you, generational wealth, overcoming that poverty consciousness that sometimes we adapt and adopt, without necessarily wanting to or knowing that we got it.
That's right. I keep mine with $100 bill underneath it.
Yo, that's
Back there
wonderful.
over there, just to make sure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I love that. I saw the pyrite. I was like, okay. I have one other thing I do is when I teach seminars, I give away a citrine.
And I have that in here too. Citrine and pyrite are actually kind of similar in their properties, because citrine is also a stone of abundance. But the difference to me is citrine is more like the sun. If you think about the sun, everything is just attracted upward to the sun. When the sun is shining, we feel better, our mood is lifted. When crops grow, they are reaching up toward the sun. Everything grows upward. But back to what I was saying about pyrite, the sun isn't necessarily going to help you cook your food. It's not going to harvest your crops for you. That pyrite really helps you to develop the discipline to take your crops, to harvest your crops, to grow your food, and make that food work for you. Make that money, make that wealth work for you.
Yeah, so this one's like the sun, and the sun's a big crystal.
Yes, it is.
And it's got the conductors in it. It's probably got pyrite in it as well because it's on fire.
And the sun is iron, and there's a lot of iron in pyrite as well.
Beautiful.
I remember Mother Tynetta even saying that crystals were captured sunlight.
Yeah, I was blessed when I was in Africa. One of my business partners there has a quarry. And so they go and they dig and they get all these beautiful stones and rocks. And so I picked up a lot of pieces. You should have seen my bag when I was coming back through custom. So I got this one.
A kyanite.
The kyanite. Yes, ma'am. I love it because of the colors, and it almost looks like volcano or something.
I believe it might be. Now, I'm not too familiar with the black kyanite, but I believe that might be volcanic rock.
Yeah, it's volcanic.
Even by the way it's just.
You see how it's
structured.
Like it's melted.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And this one I found on the ground in the quarry.
Really? So it just came out like that raw.
Oh,
well,
it was broken off of a bigger piece. There was like a big chunk, and this was like on the ground next to it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The kyanite, yeah. And then I have a bunch. I only brought a few things here for show and tell because I know you're going to show and tell some beautiful.
Yes, clear quartz. That is the master crystal, the mother of all crystals.
Yep. I use this to clean my jewelry or my copper. So if I have a piece of jewelry that I know has a lot of energy on it because I've been through a lot of things throughout the day, I will overnight set that on the clear quartz so it clears it and regrounds it.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Oh, you're on it, sister.
I don't play about my crystals. And then the last one, the other ones are over there. They were too big to bring over. But then this one,
And
it's
that's your hematite.
yep, that's a hematite. Yep. And this is good for getting rid of evil spirits.
It is. Yep. And that electromagnetic frequencies, those harmful frequencies, that one's got a lot of iron in it as well.
Yeah. It's beautiful because I started after, I didn't start immediately, but after having that conversation with Mother Tanetta, over time, I learned to pay attention to vibration.
Yeah.
So I pay attention to the type of vibration certain conversations have, certain people have, certain situations. And then once I learned the power of emotionalization, like we talked about Savior's Day, right? And how you're on that high. How do you keep that high? These crystals are a great way. And jewelry like what you make. Let me put your website back up here. So that people can get themselves back to that certainty level. And that's better. We can see your jewelry.
Oh, good. Okay, there we go.
You got any pieces you want to show us?
So I have, and again, I'm home because we got the storm out, so we felt like it would be safer for me to just stay home instead of going to my healing space. So what I have here, the pieces that I'm wearing are actually available, and then I have like a matching ring with the smoky quartz and a pyrite there, and then I have this
That's
cuff.
pretty.
Yep. So there's a pyrite cuff with citrine, the hematite there. There's tiger's eye. Oh, you can see that real good. Some more citrine, and then some black jasper on there. Oh, and there's a piece of clear quartz. Sometimes I go into my zone and I don't even remember what I put on there. But you know, there's a place that I go when I'm creating, and if I'm doing a custom piece, one of the things that I practice is listening to what the client or the customer needs. You know, people come with their energy needs. You know, they might be going through depression or relationship issues or financial issues. And one of my practices is to go within myself to a time where I might have experienced something like that. There's been very little that people who have requested from me that I haven't experienced to some degree. And of course, every situation is different, but I go within myself to a time where I might have experienced depression or an issue with a family member. And while I'm creating that piece, I not only use stones that help to elevate one up out of that space, but I am thinking about what I did, my journey to get from where I was to a better feeling place. And so that energy, that thought is conducted through the process of me creating that piece. So not only are they're not getting a piece of jewelry, you're not getting just something that was thrown together. There really is a lot of intention that's put into what I do. And honestly, there are some times where I'll decline a job, not for any bias or anything like that, but you talked about vibration. If I'm not vibrating with whatever it is that I'm being asked to do, it's not necessarily the person, but it becomes more than just making money or making a sale. If I'm really not feeling connected to what it is that I'm being asked to do, I'm not going to do it. I might refer them to a friend or, another artist that I know who might be in a space to do it. But it's business, but it's very personal to me.
It's a spiritual business. I hear you. What I hear you saying, sis, is that you literally sacrifice yourself because you take yourself back to a space of familiarity.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And then you bring yourself back up out of it in order to create what that person needs. So you really sacrifice yourself.
Oh, praise to Allah.
You
That's
really,
an insight.
really sacrifice yourself. Tell us about this healing center.
So, my healing center, I'm a Reiki master teacher as well.
Okay.
So, and for those who may not be familiar, Reiki is simply channeling healing energy through the hands for the purposes of restoring both the physical and the emotional or spiritual bodies. Um, you think about back when we were eating like we were supposed to, when we were living like the gods that we weren't getting sick. We were so in tune and connected with the law in the universe that there were very few accidents. But if someone did get hurt or there was a sickness, we weren't going to cut people open and rearrange the organs. We knew what the body looked like on the inside, and we were able to use our minds and use our spiritual energy to conduct the healing power of God through ourselves to heal ourselves and to heal one another. So that is a kind of like a simple definition of what Reiki is. But in that space, I offer Reiki healing, sound healing with both the sound bowls, tuning forks that go around the body, and then also the weighting tuning forks that go on the body. I offer classes in the space, so I train other Reiki practitioners as well, wire wrapping classes, crystal classes. All of that takes place in that space as well.
I'm gonna have to come up there and get a tune up. I always do a lot of stretching.
Oh, yes.
Because with stretching, whether I go to stretch therapy or I do yoga or some kind of stretching, I can feel where emotions have lodged in my body. So I know if my quads are a little tight, what emotion that is, hamstrings, arms, back. And I think it's interesting that you're also combining your jewelry making with the Reiki and then the attunement, because that's very, very important. And there's certain attunement that you can only get through human touch.
Yes.
You can meditate yourself back into alignment, but in a lot of ways, you need a Reiki professional, or a therapist to help tune you. And it only sometimes will come through human touch.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And you even think about how much touching, Jesus did in the scripture. You just touch and you're healed. I mean, it's really the same. It's the same sort of thing. And you feel a lot when you hug somebody. I heard someone say that you need to get at least a dozen hugs a day, I believe.
That's beautiful.
And sis, I know that it might sound strange, but I even seen that they have like people that are professional cutlers now. Have you seen that before? And because the human touch is really that important. It really is.
Yeah, the human touch, human smell.
Yeah.
What happens with us in this new world that we live in, we don't touch the earth in terms of crystals. We don't look at trees. We don't pay attention. There was an amazing full moon the other night. We don't pay attention to those things. We don't touch grass. One thing I love to do is take my shoes off and I'm just on the grass.
Yes.
So I'm grounding to the earth and I'm just feeling that grass, or I'll go out and touch trees or wood, because we just miss that aspect of healing and grounding ourselves to the earth, because we live in this world now where we don't touch, we don't see, we're just kind of like these sterile robots that just kind of go through life. It's why when you have a baby, you gotta introduce human skin and human touch immediately.
Right away.
Immediately.
Right away.
You'd be surprised at how many people don't, sis.
I believe it. I mean, and they, you have a baby in the hospital, unless you tell them otherwise and advocate for yourself, the first thing they do is take the baby away from the mother.
They do. And I'll tell you something. Generally, the people who first touch the child when they first come out are the closest to that child for the rest of that child's life. And I'll give you an example. Um, when we were in high school, my brother had a baby, and he got a little woozy and couldn't go into the delivery room, so I went in there, and so my oldest nephew, I was the first person to hold him. He came right out, and they gave him to me, and I held him while they cut the cord, and we walked him over and weighed him, and to this day, and I'll tell you though, shortly after that, I went to college, and I remember being sick to my stomach to leave him.
Oh.
And to this day, and he's my nephew, he's not even my son, but I just from that connection, I can feel him. And he's big now, but I can feel him and his energy. And I know I'm like the back of my hand because I believe from a spiritual standpoint, it was because of that experience when he was very first born.
Wow.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that, sister. That is so true.
Yeah. So I just love the work that you're doing. And I just think it's important that I love wearing jewelry and clothes and things like that matter. Most of my jewelry comes from something, some spiritual connection, some kind of thing that says, yeah, this means this, and I can explain it. And so what you do, I think, is so important. And I want to make that appointment for the attunement. I want the tuned forks and the bowls and all of that stuff.
I would love to have you down, sister. I would absolutely enjoy it.
We have to do it when it's warm though in Milwaukee, because it get cold in Chicago, but Milwaukee, Wisconsin don't play.
It's a little different here. It is.
Are you a native with, how do you say it, Wisconsinite?
That's right. Born and raised here. Done a lot of traveling, but this has always been home for me. But
I heard you say that you study French.
Yes, ma'am. I have. So that was high school, college. So I could get by in France. And when I was in college, I had the opportunity to study in Senegal for a month. And so I was able to use the language there. But
how did you do in Senegal with it? Because this is what happened to me with my French. I studied it all throughout high school and college, but I can only read it. I can't speak. I can understand, but I can't speak back.
So in Senegal, it was very interesting. So I was 19 when I went. It was my very first trip on an airplane going over to Senegal. So there was just a lot of stuff. It was a culture shock being there. And I was fluent in French at the time, but now I was fluent in formal French. I wasn't considering the fact that these are original
African
people.
French, there's a Cotavar, and
Yes, and they their native tongue is Wolof.
Mm-hmm.
And so just how we have our casual conversation that you go to England, they'll say that we're not speaking properly. I'm trying to speak formal
French,
textbook French, and I can't understand what they're saying because
it's mixed with the Wolof.
It's mixed with the Wolof. And you know how sometimes our people will be speaking and we'll say, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of their things was they say quoi. So they're saying what at the end of every sentence. I'm like, what are you asking me? So it was a challenge, but it was so beautiful to be on the motherland and to see when you talk about that connection that we're losing, and it seems like we're losing it by the generation too, the connection to earth, where you can just go and grab a mango off the tree and eat it and nobody's going to bother you. Nobody's going to say, hey, that's my tree. You have to pay me for that. People walking around barefoot, connecting to the earth, going to the ocean, doing their workout and their exercise. It was just such a beautiful and expanding experience for me.
It's an interesting thing being in Africa, and there's a pressure over here that we live under that we don't realize that we live under until it's not there anymore.
Mm.
I think it's a pressure of insecurity born out of white supremacy and that pressure to compete. And when you get to Africa, whether it's Johannesburg or Senegal or, you know, Cotonou, it could be anywhere, that that pressure goes away.
It does.
And so you feel different and you move different, you look different.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about the food, it's funny you mentioned that because we don't realize the pressure that's on us related to food over
Yes.
here. Because I remember we were driving, this happened in Abuja, Nigeria. We were driving and one of my friends and business partner, he said, if you're hungry, you need a snack, you can just get you some cashews, you can get you some bananas. It's like, and I'm looking like, really? Like, yeah, you know, you want something, but they don't have food pressure.
Mm.
And so for us, we're subconsciously thinking about how much something costs,
Yes.
how much of it, that stress of worrying about the quantity of it,
Yes.
right? The stress of worrying about where it comes from, if I'm gonna have some more. Even if we have a house full of food, we're constantly thinking about
Yes.
that. And they don't live with that kind of thought and pressure because the earth is so abundant.
And they realize that.
Hmm.
They realize that. And I think the way that you led that in was so beautiful because that white supremacy piece where it's only enough for the people at the top
Hmm.
and not enough for everybody else. You're right. That doesn't exist there.
You don't even realize that you're subjected to that when you're here.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
were
ma'am.
driving down the street and there were people who were money changers. And when I tell you they had so much money, probably about as high as these bookcases behind me, just full of money that they were changing. And I just thought, that's interesting that that feeling. Well, let me go back to this. You know, when we think of Africa, the way they paint pictures for us of Africa is that it's nothing. You know, I was over here picking up crystals off the ground and they were like, oh, there's another rock, Wendy. There's another one. Like, and I was like, y'all, wait, hold on, pull over. These are crystals. What? You know, and I said, you all live around so much abundance,
Mhm.
even down to flowers. I was walking in the garden on my friend's estate and I said, oh my God, I've never seen flowers this beautiful. And they're like, oh, you want that in your room? And I was like, no, no, no. They was like, they're everywhere. And so we had this whole conversation that day at dinner about how all this beauty that's around them, you know, these crystals that I'm dying to pick up off the ground and trying to figure out how I'm going to take back, and these flowers that I see that I've never seen before that are so beautiful and vibrant, that they don't think anything of it. They don't think
Mm.
anything of it. I'm walking past peacocks like, I love peacock. And they're like, oh, yes. It's like a turkey. It's a pheasant. And I said,
Okay.
I was like, okay, y'all just, it just made me think about just, you know, tuning myself to that type of beauty.
Yes. Yes. And it really makes me think about how we have to travel. When we travel, there it's such an invaluable experience.
Mhm.
Being able to see the world and to go back home to Africa or the Caribbean. I mean, there's just so much
Even South
that
America.
even I've never been there. I bet that's beautiful. But
Mhm.
there's just so much of the world and it belongs to us.
It does.
It's so much to see. And I just I think every time that I've traveled, I've learned more about who I am. I've learned and unlocked a different aspect of who I am. So whoever's listening, if you haven't traveled, go and
You
get you
got,
a passport and go somewhere.
it's interesting because a lot of what we're talking about, you can accomplish it through jewelry like what you make. And that's not a fake segue. It's real. It's part of why I started to get into precious metals jewelry and the stones and raw diamonds and things like that, because there's an abundance that comes from the raw energy of those elements and adorning our body with them.
Yeah, and I mean information from our past civilization is
Mm,
stored in crystals. We have to keep in mind that these crystals, even the copper, have been in the earth ever since the earth has been here. And even if they haven't formed, the materials were present in the earth and the conditions were present in the earth to form the crystals and to form the metals. And our the scientists and our ancestors that came before us, before our civilizations were destroyed, we think about Atlantis. They stored information in the crystals, and if you sit with certain crystals and you meditate with them, you can access information. You'll start seeing visions. Just depends on how you receive information. Some people receive it through sound, some people receive it through sensations or quivers, sights, things pop up, words, symbols. And if you're in tune and you keep yourself pure enough, you can decipher what that information means and use it.
that's right. That's right, sis. Since it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. I knew it would be.
Oh, likewise, beloved.
It's been beautiful. And I want to make sure everybody go to my sister's website. It's allah-mode.com. Order something from her. Let's blow up her website. Get something. Get a couple dollars. Y'all know I'm going to always make y'all pay for freedom on this show.
Ooh.
I always want to get us attuned to following our money with good intention. What is the intention with the money I'm asking you to spend? Is to support our sister and her business and encourage her to keep doing what she's doing, because we need people like you, sis. And I thank you and I'm grateful. And so people on here on my show, they know they used to me asking for money. You see stuff going across the bottom here because it's just paper.
Yeah, it is.
It's just paper. We got to get out of this mindset, even though it's the hypocrisy that we do. We hate on stuff that we need and we really love. So many of us go, well, I hate money. I don't care about money. It don't really matter to me. But you go to work all day for $1.
That's it.
Then the other side of that is then you get money and you hold on to it. But use that money for good.
That's right.
Look at your money as a reward for your sacrifice and for your time, and spread it among your family and friends. And this sister is our family. She's a new emerging market leader. Next time you decide you just want to get a piece of jewelry, don't go to Nordstrom's, don't go to Neiman Marcus, don't go to Macy's. Go right on here. We have other sisters we've had on the show who are jewelry makers. And take a trip up to Milwaukee like I'm going to do, and get yourself tuned up and tuned in so that I'm working on becoming a god, sis. So any way that I can tune and get it together and do a better job at working for the wheel.
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
I asked Allah many years ago to make me his conduit. And so I said, well, that means I got to take care of this vessel so that he can come through.
That's right.
Any message you want to give us before we go out today? Put your website back.
Just, God is in all of us, and continue to work to mine out more and more God within you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, sis. We appreciate you, and stay tuned. You can use this broadcast to help advertise. I'll send you the link. So this is me giving to you, my sister. And in whatever way, inshallah, this will bring more and more flow of energy and abundance to you.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you so
May
much,
Allah
sister.
bless you and your family.
You as well.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
That's it, family. Another emerging new market leader, an industry disruptor. I thank you all for coming on. Let me see y'all in the chat. It was flowing, but I was into such great conversation with my sister. I did not pay attention to y'all in the chat today. So that's her website. Make sure you check her out. Okay, I see Sister Anissa. I saw her earlier. Sister Amina Hanan, I saw her earlier. NOI Arts, Assalamu alaikum. Yes, yes, yes. Sister, this is going to be great. Yeah, she loves crystals. I love crystals too. Sister Iwana says they are very pretty. Yeah, these crystals are just gorgeous. I have another one. You can kind of see it there in the corner right there. It's kind of heavy, so I didn't bring it over here. But I have others throughout my house. I just love them. See, Sister Lisa R says, Assalamu alaikum. It's a blessing to see you both. Good to be seen and to see you as well. Sister Bridget Driver said crystals also in the pineal gland. That's exactly right. That's why there's some crystals where you use them and you connect them to your pineal gland. I do that with my citrine, and I activate my pineal with the citrine. Sister Iwana says she used to wear copper for joint pain. Yeah, copper is good for joint pain and rebalancing the body. And it's really important to pay attention to your body, because wherever you get those little aches, or if you're stretching and you feel something really tight, even stretch back your hands and stuff. And then look up. If you feel something, say you feel something like up in here, go and look up and say, what emotion is tied to this area of my body? And then figure out what tools you can use to retune and retouch yourself. So I see Sister Cynthia 3X. Wa alaikum salam. Auntie, she says, good evening. So glad I caught the live. Face red heart shade. Okay. So, all right. Praise be to Allah. I see you all in here. Thank you. Thank you. A couple people I didn't recognize. Leverage TV. Sustainable Home Empire. We got Javon Muhammad. Y'all in here today. All praises due to Allah. It's so good to see everybody following up our wonderful Savior's Day weekend. Every year I say best Savior's Day ever. And so this year I'm saying best Savior's Day ever. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you all for those of you who tuned in last week for our reflection show of your visit to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are very near our focus on really pushing our commemorative Elijah coins, the graded ones, okay? These graded ones are really, really important because they are collectors. They're the same coin that's here. But this one also has a membership number on the back. And this is what we need. Let me just explain this to you guys. What we need at this point is for you all to go in droves and purchase this commemorative Elijah coin. Why is that important? It's great that we're purchasing them, ones and twos at a time. And that helps because it helps me with the maintenance of the house. Sometimes people forget that just to maintain a home of that size, it's pretty expensive. You probably can only imagine what the utilities are a month. The utilities a month at that house are probably more than most people's mortgage. Okay, so it's good. So if you go out and you sell 2 or 3, or you buy 2 or 3 of these, that's fine. We can apply that to the utilities, but it still puts us in a position where we still need money for the construction. And so I'm just throwing everything I can at the project into this. And I saw the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on Monday following Savior's Day. And he said to me, let's get that house done this year. And I already told y'all, we got to reverse engineer that, because if we got 4 to 6 months worth of work, that means we need to get started right away. So we need to sell out. The best way to do it is either for somebody to donate like a big 6-figure chunk, or any amount that you can, or let's buy up these coins. You know, my thing is that I never wanted to ask you all for anything without returning something to you. And so if you notice, whenever you donate something to Sajdah House, I try to give you something, whether it's a t-shirt, a hat. In this case, it's this commemorative coin. So go to the website. It's sajdahhouse.com. You see scrolling across the bottom here where you can join the mailing list. Mailing list is going to be important. We got some fun stuff planned for the summer. Listen, this summer is going to be lit. Do you hear me? I'm so excited. I want to tell y'all, but I can't tell you yet. I'll just say this, join the mailing list so that you can keep up. That's scrolling across the bottom. You just want to text do for self. That's DO, the number 4. It's going right across here, across the bottom, because I see y'all looking at me like, what? Wait, slow down. I'm going to come back to this. I just wanted you to know what you got to text. So get your phone out, type in DO, the number 4, SELF to 855-574-9099. That's it, going across the stage. Across the stage. And make sure you like and subscribe to this page. And if you want to make a donation tonight, you can do so by going to Cash App, $Mo Today. That's MOETODAY. Or you can go to SajdahHouseDonations.com. And if you're ready to get your commemorative graded coin before there are no more, just go to SajdahHouse.com, because in a minute, very short minute, like only 4 of these left. And so we've got about 1,000 of these graded coins and about 4 of these left. So I say get them before you be crying. Once these go, there'll be a different design, which is going to make the value of these go up. And the copper that we do have, we're not sure if we're going to be able to use it, because the thing is once you take it down off the building, we have to clean it to make sure it's not, that it's thick enough and it's pure enough to be able to be smelted down. Because what happens with copper over the years, it starts to patina. And in this case, this copper is 120 years old. So it's got all kind of gook and mud and dirt and all kind of stuff on it that kind of wears down and wears out the copper. And in some cases, you can't use it like we were able to use this. So don't count on there being more once these are gone. All right, so I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Y'all know I'm gonna sell you something when you come on here. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in Saturday for the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talk. I'm gonna talk about this Chris Rock, Will Smith stuff because I just feel like it. That's why. Some people are like, why are you talking about that? Because I feel like it. Plus, I want you all to be able to look at propaganda and recognize that it's propaganda and recognize a communication strategy. So we're going to analyze that whole thing from a communication strategy standpoint, just so we know what we're looking at around here. All right. So peace and blessings, family. Have a good day. Wait a minute. 2 people made a comment. Let me go make sure I got it. Some people saying thank you. Brother Javon said, yes, 120 years old. You are so correct. And I will see you all, inshallah, on Saturday. And then Sunday, I'm going to be at CROW, the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They're having their big anniversary and fundraiser. But I'll tell you all about that on Saturday when you tune in to the Sajdah Saturday Morning Coffee Talks. Get your coins. Peace and blessings.